Have you ever wondered why Mickey wears gloves? Or why the Simpsons are yellow? Or what's the real secret formula of the Krabby Patty? These are questions that the overwhelming majority of people have no idea about, but we know them all, and we've decided to reveal them to everyone right now. The mystery of four fingers. Characters having four fingers is so common that practically no one notices it anymore in cartoons, but do you have any idea about the real reason behind this completely unrealistic design? You'll probably be surprised to discover that the reason most animated characters have four fingers is because of money. Yes, the artists of the past, especially during the golden age of cartoons when characters like Mickey, Bugs Bunny, and Woody Woodpecker were created, had very little budget to create their characters. For this reason, they decided to, figuratively speaking, cut off a finger from each hand of the drawings. This made them draw faster and use less ink, ultimately saving money.
Now we'll put the hand on there. His fingers are short and fat.
Oh! Gloves! Now that you know why there are four fingers, you might wonder, yes, and where does the idea of wearing gloves come from? This is indeed one of the biggest mysteries of all, as almost all major characters wear white gloves. And no, it has nothing to do with hiding long, dirty, or poorly kept nails. Well, the reason, in the end, was simply convenience. Drawing hands has always been a challenge for any artist due to the richness of details this part of the body possesses. So by simply putting gloves on the hands of characters like Woody Woodpecker, Mickey, or Bugs Bunny, for example, the problem of details was solved. Additionally, this small detail made the character more human and allowed viewers to identify more easily with them. Krabby Patty formula. Let's now talk about one of the biggest secrets in the history of cartoons. The main reason Plankton is always unsuccessful in SpongeBob SquarePants, the Krabby Patty. Did you know that if the villain had internet in the chum bucket, he would never need to enter the Krusty Krab to try to steal a Krabby Patty? A few years ago, the complete list of ingredients and the preparation method that SpongeBob uses to make the most sought-after delicacy under the sea leaked on Nickelodeon's website. Of course, a few minutes later, the formula was taken down, but it was enough for it to be copied and reproduced, even if many had no idea it had leaked. But we finally found out that there is no real crab meat in the formula, but rather imitation crab meat. Less bad, isn't it? Not really. Do you know what imitation crab meat is made of? Fish meat. So the question we can't answer is, where does Mr. Krabs get that meat anyway? Honestly, I'm afraid of the answer, but maybe this has to do with the origin of the Crusty Crab building. As we mentioned, the buildings and houses in Bikini Bottom were well created by the late Steven Hillenburg. But what almost no one noticed is the peculiar shape and origin of the most requested restaurant where our beloved SquarePants works. What if I told you that the Krusty Krab building is actually a trap for catching crabs? Would you believe it? Well, that's the plain truth. The place where everyone goes to enjoy a good meal is actually an exact copy of a crab cage. This makes the origin of the Krabby Patty meat even more intriguing, don't you agree? Shere Khan. Speaking of names, do you remember Shere Khan, the killer tiger who wanted to destroy Mowgli the wolf boy? This is definitely an extremely imposing and creative name, right? Wrong! In the Hindustani Indian dialect, Shere Khan actually means only a big tiger, which is exactly what Shere Khan is, a big and bad tiger. Baloo! Well, if creativity wasn't flowing when it came to naming the villain in the Jungle Book movie with the bear friend of the wolf boy, the story is exactly the same. That's because Baloo, also in Hindustani, means bear. The song was really right. Just the bare necessities. Simpsons. Let's talk about colors for a moment. At least once in your life, you must have stopped and wondered, why are the Simpsons yellow? This is a very valid question, and we're going to reveal the reason now. Surprisingly, it has everything to do with the family's children, Bart, Lisa, and Maggie. And the reason is what Marge has in abundance and Homer lacks. Hair. Since all three children have hair but no distinct lines separating that part of their bodies, the animators thought yellow would be the ideal color that could serve both the skin color and hair color. That's why we haven't had the world's most famous cartoon family with conventional skin colors on television since 1989, when the show was launched. Admit it, you had no idea this was the real reason. The name of Disney's most famous wizard. Fantasia, the 1940 film, is probably the most iconic film in Disney history because it marked a turning point in the world of animations. That's because it sort of inaugurated the new design of Mickey Mouse that the whole world knows to this day. The character's appearance, who is the face of Disney, happened in one of the 8 shorts that composed the film, in which Mickey was the apprentice to a sinister magician. The detail that almost no one knows is that this magician, whom many thought was named Merlin, actually had the name Yensid. But why this name? Simple. Yensid is simply Disney spelled backwards. This must have been the first Easter egg in Disney's history. You definitely didn't know this one. Enjoying the video? Then comment down below, #SecretO. Bikini Bottom Buildings. Let's talk again about one of the most beloved cartoons of all time, SpongeBob SquarePants. And no, we're not going to discuss the theory that Bikini Bottom is a radioactive place and that everyone living there is a mutant, even though that's possible. Apart from that, have you ever noticed that most of the houses of the residents in the underwater city are identical to car exhausts? This would demonstrate that Bikini Bottom is a place where marine currents are always bringing trash and other unpleasant things. Squidwards House. Talking about the houses in SpongeBob raises another interesting question. How did a head from Easter Island become Squidward's house? These statues from this Chilean island are one of the biggest mysteries of humanity, and this mystery gets even bigger when we ask ourselves how one of these head statues ended up at the bottom of the sea. The interesting thing is that a few years ago, archaeologists confirmed the theory that the heads that were visible on the island actually had a complete body buried under the ground. So we can deduce that Squidward's house is much larger than it may seem. At least the basement must be really big. Adult jokes. When my parents tell me that cartoons are for kids, I automatically think, you don't know what you're talking about. That's because cartoons, made by adults, always hide little jokes between the lines, and some of them are pretty dirty, others not so much. And anyone who watched SpongeBob in childhood and watches it again today knows exactly what we're talking about. Just to stick to a single example, let's talk about an episode from the 7th season, where we see SpongeBob pulling various things out of his pocket. How shall I put it? That are used to prevent babies. Then he blows on them and manages to inflate one of them, and it certainly becomes even clearer to see what they are. And before you say anything, let's agree that if they were children's party balloons, they would be colorful, don't you think? Powerpuff Girls accident. Another example of an adult joke happens in the episode of the memorable Powerpuff Girls cartoon when the girls bring Robin, their neighbor, to their house. Bubbles then comments that Professor Utonium made her and her sisters in the laboratory by accident. Right after that, little Robin innocently comments that she was also an accident. Probably the girl overheard her parents saying something about it, which is sad, but still funny. And the professor's expression explains everything.
Yeah, he made us in his laboratory by accident. Don't worry, Professor. I was an accident too.
Powerpuff Girls inspiration. Speaking of the Defenders of Townsville, did you know that the inspiration for the origin of the little superheroines is extremely old and has everything to do with Disney? Well, Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup have their colors, and the fact that they are a trio is closely related to the 3 fairy godmothers from the Sleeping Beauty tale. Who would have thought, right? Simba. Remember when we talked about the names Shere Khan and Baloo from Mowgli the Wolf Boy? Let's talk now about another film that brings very striking names, The Lion King. A large part of the character names comes from the Swahili language, as is the case with the name Simba. And guess what? Simba means nothing more and nothing less than lion. I hope I'm not ruining someone's childhood today. Loudhouse Parents. It's quite common in many cartoons to have big secrets behind the faces and appearances of some characters' parents. And that's exactly what happened with the faces of Lincoln's parents and his 12 sisters. But this lasted only at the beginning of the show, as in the following seasons, we can see their faces. Do you know at what moment their faces were finally revealed for the first time? It happened in the Christmas special, where they were holding various presents in front of their faces, but at one moment near the end, their faces were finally revealed, kind of like a Christmas bonus. And since then, we always see them more actively participating in the episodes of the show. Those were the 15 best-kept secrets of the cartoon world, and since we're not a treasure chest, we've revealed everything. That's why we've also picked these 2 videos for you to keep enjoying with us. The one on the left is awesome, the one on the right too.